Hello! Welcome back to Emptying Gulliver's Bucket. I'm Annemey, and today we are going to talk about readathons. So, to get the video started off, sorry for my long disappearance, but I'm back, baby! So, today we are going to discuss a month-long TBR, which is my to be read pile for a readathon, which is absolutely amazing. It is one of the most creative things ever. It is super fun and it's just a world of its own. So it was created by G from the BookRoast, and I'll link the video down below where it all starts because she can explain it a lot better than I can. But pretty much this readathon started last year September when we went through our novice path, and you pick a race, you pick a province, and you pick a calling, and you pick everything to create your character in this weird and wonderful world called Orrilium. And she has created this entire world. She's created maps, she's created documents, she's created a history, she's created this entire world and built it up for us to enjoy and enter in these readathons that is carrying on for the entire year. So last year, September, we went down the novice path, which was our entrance into Orrilium, or into the school where we are going to be studying this semester, which is the month of April. The second semester is in August, which is super cool, but it's a month long now in April where we're studying. So last year we created our characters, which we had to read books to create said characters, and we had to read at least 2 books to complete the novice path and enter the school. All of this is listed and spoken of and described and explained in her videos, and she does a much better job than I could ever do. So rather go look and watch the videos if you want to partake. So I have been partaking in the readathon from the start. I just did not film it because at that point I did not have a channel. At that point I did not have a channel, but now that I do, I think I can share my TBR and what I'm planning to read this month for my character and for my calling and such. So just to do a little recap, because I did not film the readings, the TBRs, or anything of the previous readathons or mini readathons or anything of the like to get to the point where we are now. Just to recap, I am a little earthling, which an earth elemental. So I'm also a little wilding, which means that I live more in a forest. I live on the city of Eritrea, which is wooded, a little bit wilder. Yeah, I've got a book. It's all in the book. So the province is Eritrea, which is very green, with very magical. The mountains move sometimes. There are magical creatures, tombs and ruins, and it's pretty much just a wild place. And that is pretty much where I live. Then my little race is an earth elemental, which means that I've got green leopard spots. I've got little antlers, is what I've chosen to give my character, with flowers growing in my hair and little bark-like scales on my arms and legs. So the earth elementals have a natural affinity to all things earth and wild related, if I've got it correctly, which I found quite cool. So to do this, I had to read a bunch of books, and they all had their own prompts, and I did that. So that is my little character. I have not figured out a name for the character yet. Probably because the character is just like a little character for me up until this point. So I still need to figure out a name, to be honest. But that can take some time. So after that, then we went through the novice path, and as you went through the novice path, she had a story, which she rose up, which is pretty much just amazing. And she wrote the story up, and at certain points in the novice path, you had to make just decisions. So there was an A, B, C, D, and it was that typical thing, I don't know, when I was younger, it was in the magazines and you picked A, B, C, and then if you got mostly A's, then this is what you were, or mostly B's, is what you were, and that's how it worked. So there's a video where she explains which sign you get for each of your choices, and then at the end of that you get a guild depending on which choices you made. So the choices I made led me to being part of the House of the Arcane. So we are very sciencey apparently, and are very interested in the workings of magic and study and research and such, and reading up about the things, and that is what I like doing. I like researching, and I'm very curious, and so apparently that is what my character is part of. My little character is part of the House of the Arcane, and our colours are purple and gold. Then we could gear up, because this world has a magic system that it's there, but to like focus it you need a conduit. And the conduit I chose was a staff, because I just thought it would look cute with my character. And to that I had to read a book, part of a series, and I did, which was Daughter of Smoke and Bone. And then lastly there's a legacy. So each of the guilds have like a legacy which has been carrying on for millennia, that they have put a lot of research, a lot of time, a lot of effort into, and then pretty much you can access these parts of the guild legacy. So they're very guild specific. It's a little pocket that is hidden in the folds of dimension that you can reach into and grab something. So my little character would love to be able to carry a whole library with her at all times, along with all her equipment when she goes and does field studies. So she'd like a pocket of dimension just to reach into, grab a book for research or just for casual reading, and that is what my character is. So for this readathon, which is going to take place now, it is a month long. So it started on the 1st of April and it's going to finish at April. And this is where we complete our first semester of studies. So, and enter our calling. So she's got a long list of different callings. Each calling has to study certain subjects. She's got a list of subjects. Each subject corresponds to a reading prompt. And these reading prompts, you read all of them, and then you have your calling at the end of it, which is very cool, and I'm really excited about it because this is like a massive D&D, but just with reading as the adventure pieces. So the calling that I chose was the Archmage. That is because they are really, really into knowing everything there is about magic. And personally, the little character that I've created, I think would not be satisfied with just focusing on one piece of magic. She'd like to know everything about everything. She's super curious. She's a little bit weird and wonderful, but she just wants to know everything about everything, and curiosity is like her main thing. And the one that I thought suited best is Archmage. And the Archmage has to study alchemy, the art of illusion, spells and incantations, inscription, artificery, conjuration. So without further ado, let's get into my TBR for this month, the books that I'll be reading so that I can get to my calling before the second part of the readathon continues in August and we write our exams. With alchemy. So alchemy, the main focus of the course is Potion of Infatuation. So you have to read a book featuring romance. The book that I chose to feature romance is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. And this is a typical contemporary adult romance, and I'm here for it. It is full of banter and sticky situations and just love and romance, and yes. Chloe Brown is a chronically ill computer geek who has a goal and a plan and a list. After almost but not quite dying, she's come up with a list of directors to help her get a life. And she has someone in mind, Redford Red Morgan. He has tattoos and a motorbike, and he is the perfect helper in her mission to rebel. So they fall in love because it is a romance, and the entire plot is romance. So I think it fulfills that prompt perfectly. I've also been wanting to get into this trilogy because it follows the three little Brown sisters. But that is my first pick. The next subject that I have to study, my character has to study to become an Archmage, is the art of illusion. Mirror image is the focus of this study, and you have to read a book that has a trope that you like. So the trope that I decided to pick is retellings, especially myth retellings, fairy tale retellings and such. So I picked Ariadne by Jennifer Saint because it is a retelling of a classic Greek myth, following the daughter Ariadne, who is the princess of Crete, it follows the daughters, the princesses of Crete, and the daughters of fearsome King Minos, Ariadne and Phaedra, whose brother is the Minotaur. So there is the love, there's the Minotaur, the defeat of the Minotaur, the classic story of how the Minotaur was defeated by, let me just check for you, Theseus, Prince of Athens. And this is just the retelling out of the female point of view, how Ariadne helps Theseus, her lover, defeat her brother, the Minotaur. And I pretty much just love retellings. So that is the trope that I have picked. Is it a trope or is it a genre? No, it's a trope. It's a trope. So that's the trope I picked, and it's got a stunning cover. It is a Waterstones exclusive edition. So not only will I be reading a great book with a trope that I love, it has a stunning cover as well. This is like the perfect book, in my opinion. We'll see how it goes. The third prompt is a bit of an interesting one, and I had to think a little bit before I was completely sure about what I was going to read or put in this slot. But the third subject I need to study is spells and incantations, and our focus of study is anti-gravity spell, and this is essays or short stories. So for this one, I decided I'm going to read 2 books. Call me crazy, yes or no, but it's 2 very short books, and it's 2 books by the exact same author, and they're both essays by Elena Ferrante, an Italian author who is well-renowned and much beloved world over. I personally love her writing, so when I saw essays, it was one of my first choices was to either go short stories, like fantasy short stories, or essays by Elena Ferrante. So I decided I'm going to read both of hers. The first one is In the Margins. It is a teeny tiny book, very, very, very thin, but this is 4 essays, I think, on the pleasures of reading and writing. So this is written by her as she has traveled through the literary world in the margins or on the page. And I just think it sounds amazing. Also, I adore the cover with the black and then the white with the pages. It really does it for me. And the tiny little Elena. So this is a tiny book. Also why I decided to do 2, because I first decided to do Incidental Inventions, which is her book of articles and essays she wrote for the New York Times, I think. And it's just a compilation of all of them over a year's time. And I thought, it was quite short, why not do both of them? So I'm being ambitious and I'm doing both of her essays. And that is all I have to say on the matter. These are the essays I'm going to read, and I will share with my wrap-up. The 4th subject is inscription, and it is glyph strength. That is our focus. And I have to pick an intimidating read. To be honest, I don't really find books intimidating. There's nothing that I'm scared to read, just more of I'm not in the mood to read. So I had to go with something that I assume many people would find intimidating, and I know a lot of people find big books intimidating. And that was pretty much the easiest way to go about that prompt. So personally, I don't find big books intimidating. I can find them frustrating, but I'm not scared to pick them up. I just know it might take me a little bit longer. So that's what I did. I chose something that I know has appeared in many YouTuber videos as intimidating books that I want to get to. It tended towards bigger books. So I decided to go with a bigger book. It is a fantasy, and it is The Red Knight by Miles Cameron. And I've already started reading this one. So I'm about this far into the book, if that helps. Doesn't know if that helped, but this is the first read of this readathon, and this is my intimidating book. It is about 800 pages long, and it is a proper high fantasy. It's about a world that is quite similar to ours, where the wild, with all its creatures, all its fantastical creatures, is attacking the human world. And now the Red Knight, the captain, we never hear his name, the captain and his mercenaries get paid to defend Albuquerque Abbey. But is 28 florins enough payment per month to fight a war? That is the question, because this is for real, this is bloody, dirty work. I can tell you I have really been enjoying this so far. The magical creatures, the fact that it's kind of like the anti-hero because it's a mercenary who fights and partakes in violence for money, so morally great character, and he is supposed to be the hero and save all these normal people, the nuns and everyone. And there's political intrigue, there is magical intrigue, and there is historical intrigue. So it's just a big high fantasy book that I've really been enjoying, and that I chose as my intimidating read because it is over 800 pages long. So for the fifth prompt, and the second last prompt or subject, because my archmage only has to take 6 subjects, which is quite nice. It is artificery, which is schematic literary, which is the focus of the study, and the prompt is an Earth setting. So that was quite a nice and broad prompt, I thought, because you could go anywhere. You could go a fantasy set on Earth, you could go a futuristic Earth, dystopian Earth, or just a contemporary novel. So I decided to go with Memphis by Tara M. Stringfellow. And this is an exclusive signed edition. Ever since I've moved to the UK, I have had childlike joy whenever I found out a book was signed by the author, because back home you don't really see that at all. Like, that never happens. But the point is, let's start off with, the reason why I chose Memphis was because I was gifted an ARC of it on NetGalley by the publishers, so to read before it came out. But the device on which I read all my ARCs broke because I leaned on it with my elbow. Very smart, I know. But it broke, so I was unable to read it because I haven't replaced it yet. And when I was walking home this morning, actually, I saw it in the window, realized that I hadn't read it before it was published, and I'd still like to review it on NetGalley, so I decided to get the finished copy, read it, and then review it on NetGalley, because I was gifted the ARC by NetGalley, so I don't know. That, and I really like the cover and the size of it, and the cover art, and then the end papers. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the end papers. I just love it. So pretty much this follows. Joan was an only child the last time she visited Memphis. She doesn't remember the bustle of Beale Street on a summer's night. She doesn't know she's as likely to hear a gunshot ring out as the sound of children playing. How the smell of honeysuckle is almost overwhelming as she climbs the porch steps to the house where her mother grew up. But when the front door opens, she does remember Derek. The house is full of history. This house full of history is home to the women of the North family. They are no strangers to adversity. Resilience runs in their blood. 50 years ago, Hazel's husband was lynched by his all-white police squad, yet she made a life for herself and her daughters in the majestic house he built for them. August lives there still, running a salon where the neighborhood women gather, and now this house is the only place Joan has left. It is in sketching portraits of the women in her life, her aunt and her mother, the women who come to have their hair done, the women who come to chat and gossip, that Joan begins laughing again, begins living. Memphis is a celebration of the enduring strength of female bonds, of what we pass down from mother to daughter, epic in scope yet intimate in detail. It is a vivid portrait of 3 generations of Southern black family, as well as an ode to the city they call home. And if that doesn't sound amazing, I don't know what does. I personally love family sagas and seeing the relationships between women in books or portrayed in books, and especially women's connected by family. So mothers, grandmothers, daughters, sisters. I just personally love reading about it. And this is set in the 80s, which is quite cool. So that's a time period that I like visiting just because it's the 80s. And it also covers a lot of history that is maybe overlooked or maybe forgotten to like mention, or the repercussions that are still prominent in this time period after so many years. So I find it an interesting topic, and it's not a slice of life, but a heartwarming, or a character that grows into herself or finds herself again along with female family collections. So that is my pick for my fifth subject, my character's fifth subject, a book set on Earth. It is set in a real place on Earth, Memphis. Then the last but not least, the subject, and after this I will let you go on and carry on with your lives, I promise. The last subject is conjuration, which is conjuring of light is the focus of the subject. So pretty much we have to pick a book with a source of light on the cover. And I may or may not have cheated, but honestly I do not care, because the one that I chose is The Winter Garden by Alexandra Bell. And it doesn't look like there's a source of color. I know, but stars. There's a constellation up here, and stars are sources of light, because the sun is a star. Stars like exude light. Point is, that is my source of light. The constellation is a source of light, and then the luminescent butterflies. But pretty much this is an alternative Edwardian history where there's a winter garden that a girl, what's her name? Let's see. Beatrice gets invited to the winter garden when she's 8 years old on the night that her mother dies. She spends 9 nights in it, and then it disappears. On the eve of her marriage, 11 years later, she gets an invite from the winter garden that says, "I'm looking for the most magical, spectacular, remarkable pleasure garden this world has to offer. A garden that brings wonder and amazement to people's lives. The winner will be picked at the end of next year upon New Year's Eve. They will be required to give up the most wondrous parts of their garden. In return, the prize will be one wish from the last of the winter garden's magic." And honestly, I just love the cover firstly. Secondly, I love books that have gardening in them, like anything plant-based gardening. When somebody has a green thumb and makes a pleasure garden or does flower arrangements or gardens and it brings them joy, I'm instantly drawn to it and kind of just want to pick it up because of the gardening aspect and reading about the plants that they're planting. But there's also like friendship, rivalry, gardening, a wish, magic. What more can I ask for in a book? And then it's got a stunning cover as well. Like, this is just the perfect way to end my TBR. Tiny interruption, apologies. But that is the conclusion of this TBR. We'll see if I can finish it. It's 6 books, and then I've got a 7th one which was talked about in my previous video because of my year-long TBR buzzwordathon, which you can go view up here or in the comments or in the description box below. But 7 books for the month of April. Let's see if I can succeed and how this goes. At the end of the month there will be a wrap-up just to let you know my thoughts. And if you're interested in joining the readathon, which I really recommend just because G has done such an amazing job with the creation of this world and just everything, follow the link down below, get all the little printouts, make yourself a character and just enjoy. But for now, that is all. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you with the next one. Bye!